Hey everyone, I want to show you how you can make an event countdown just like the one behind me. If an old guy like I can do it, you can do it too. I used Davinci Resolve, and the free version will do everything that I've done in this tutorial. So let's get started, shall we? So here we are on the edit page of Davinci Resolve, and I've got my media here. Now what I did is I created a loop, and I spent a little time with this to bring out some of these colors. I only bumped up the saturation a tiny bit. It was just a beautiful, beautiful day. So then I also have my audio, and now this audio, I got this from YouTube royalty-free music, no copyright music. There's a link in the description. So the first thing I did is I came over here and I put an out mark right here because there's no sound at the end. So let's put that down in my timeline. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to effects and grab a fusion composition and drop that fusion composition here. Let me make it a little longer so we can make it the same size. There we go. And we're going to drag that to the end of our music. Now we'll go over to the Fusion page. So in the Fusion page, I'm going to move our media out over here, and the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to bring in, well, our media. So I'm going to bring in this audio. We're going to hit that. We're going to hit 1 on the keyboard, and that'll show up over there. And this is 2. And we'll drag this on over. And there it is there. So let's make those the same size. That always just bugs me. So we have them in both of the viewers. So now one of the problems that I have here is that my media is just a little bit shorter than my music. So what happens is it'll get to here and it'll just be blank. So what we'll do is we'll click on that and we'll hit loop. So now once it gets past that, it plays through the whole thing. So the first thing I want to do is I generally like to have about a 5-second intro. So I'm going to drag a text plus down here, and we're going to call this welcome. So let's rename it to welcome. And then we're going to pull this on down over here and pipe it down into that, and it creates a merge. So now we have welcome. It doesn't say anything yet, but we haven't done anything. We'll just say we're glad you're here. And let's put that like that. There we go. So what we'll do is we'll make that a little bit larger, so it's almost covering the whole screen. There we go. And I'm going to change that font. I've been playing around with Lucida for some reason. I don't know why. Lucida calligraphy looks pretty cool, but it's a little bit flat. So I think what I want to do is I want to go into the shading node, or the shading tab, and I'm going to hit 2, which is red outline, and we're going to enable the red outline, but red is a little bit too stark. And since I want something that kind of matches the forest that's on the other side of the lake there, I'm going to choose this green right here. So it kind of matches it. So the next thing I want to do is that doesn't really show up because this font is a little smaller, and later on we're going to add a larger font with our numbers, and we want that to match that. So I'm going to bring this font, this thickness of this line just a little bit larger, and that looks pretty good. All right, so now from there what we want to do is we only want this to show up for the first 5 seconds of our video. So our video is 24 frames per second. 5 seconds would be 120 seconds. So we're going to put that at the 120 second mark, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring in an ellipse mask, and we're going to drag that ellipse mask onto the welcome, and now you'll notice it only covers that part. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make it so it shows the entire dialogue. So I'm going to bring the width up, and I'm going to bring the height up, and yeah, that ought to do it. Looks good, doesn't it? 6:1, yeah. That looks pretty good. So there we have that, but we only want it to show up for the first 5 seconds or so. So what I'm going to do is I want it to kind of go away, have the ellipse get smaller until it shrinks and until it's gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keyframe all this, but what I want to do is I'm going to back up 1/4 of a second, which is 6 frames. And there we have that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to keyframe that exactly where it is. So now we're going to add half a second to this, 12, which would be 12 frames. So 114 plus 12 would be 126. And we're going to go there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag this down to nothing and drag that down to nothing. And now it has a keyframe there and it stays at that point. Now we want it to come back at the end of the video. So 7028 is how many frames this video has. We're going to subtract 120 from that, so that would be 6908. But since we want to have that half second where it does that, we'll just move 6 to that side and we'll keyframe that. And then 12 more, so 6914. And then we will bring this back up. But what I want to do, let's keyframe those. What I want to do is have it be the exact same size, 1.291 and 0.614. Get on the right one. 1.291 and 0.64. And there's the thing exactly like it is. So now what will happen is it will just show up on the page like so. There we go. All right, so now that we've done that, we need to have countdown numbers because this is, after all, a countdown. So we're going to bring in another Text Plus node, and we're going to put that one right there, and we'll drag it in. Come on. We'll drag that on in, and it'll create another merge, and it doesn't have anything yet. Let's put this in the center somewhere so we can play around with it. So then what we want to do is come over here to the inspector. We're going to right click on that and we're going to choose time code. Now time code counts up or down depending on where your playhead is. You'll notice that it's counting up the longer it goes. We're going to get to that in just a minute. But the first thing you'll see that I like to get rid of is this. Right here we have 2 zeros, and over here this is the how many frames. So right now it's at 3 minutes and 32 seconds into the video. So on timecode, we're going to go up here in the inspector and we're going to hit modifiers. We're going to uncheck hours and we're going to uncheck frames. So now we just have that. So that's our timecode, but it's still counting up, and we'll get back to that one in a minute. So the next thing is, I think what I want to do is I want to have that thing be in the sky. First of all, we're going to make it bigger. Let's go all the way up to 0.5. And then we're going to take into the layout tab, and we're going to move this up because I want it to be where the sky is. So now it looks like it's about the right height, but the font, I need to change that back to, let's go back to the one that we used with the other thing. We'll go to Lucida Calligraphy, and there's Lucida Calligraphy. But Lucida, see how it moves back and forth just that littlest bit, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the H anchor here in the inspector, and we're going to hit left. And what that does is that aligns the, what that does is it aligns this with wherever the layout tab says at 0.5. So currently X is at right in the center of the screen, and it puts this at the left point of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this back over here. I'm going to be getting rid of this leading 0 later, so that'll not be there. And that looks about right, but I think what I want to do is I want to get this just a little bit higher. There we go. What we want to do is come over to the shading, and on the number 2 we're going to enable that red outline, but instead of the red we're going to bring up the same green that we did on the other one. There we go. So let's see what that looks like. Click on that. Perfect. So that looks exactly like what we want it to look like. But okay, so now here's the next problem that we have. When we get over here, you'll notice that the We're Glad You're Here is here, but also my countdown numbers are also here. So we want to get rid of that. So what's the next thing we do? So what I'm going to want to do is I want this ellipse to be what causes that to disappear the way it is. So I'm going to copy the ellipse, and then I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to drag this on over here, and it's the same, except if we hit invert, it goes away. So now what will happen is when we get to that, get the playhead to there and start it playing, as it goes away, the numbers come back. The numbers come in. So there we have that. So that's that one. So the next thing is, let's get rid of this count up and turn it into a count down. So what we'll do is we'll highlight our text here. Let's rename this real quick as countdown. So we want it to count down rather than count up. So we have that one highlighted. I'm going to hit Shift and Space Bar on the keyboard and start typing time. And there's time speed. That's the one we want to hit. We add that in there and it's on there. So in time speed, what we do is we come up here to the inspector and notice it has a speed. It's at 1. So we're going to make that -1. And now it's going to count down. It's from here to here, it's a lower number. So now the next thing we want to do is get rid of that leading 0. We don't want that on here. So the best way to do that would be to, let's scroll that down. Let's grab an ellipse mask and we're going to drag it down here and bring it over here. So now notice it covers up the parts we don't want to cover up. So let's change that. We'll invert it in the inspector there, and then let's turn it just a little bit so it's the same. It's going to be the same angle. Let's make it smaller that way and smaller that way, and then we'll just drag it right over here over our leading 0, and there it is. The 0 is now gone. So the other thing is, though, is what happens is when it goes below 1 minute. There we go. There's another leading 0. So we want to get rid of it as well. So let's bring this up to about, there it is, 1 minute. And there's our spot. So we want to keyframe this here, move to the next spot, and then we'll make this larger until it covers up that other 0. And now it's keyframe. It will go from there to there. And that's that. So that's the whole thing. At this point, you can go ahead and render it, and you have a nice looking countdown that's that was easy to make, and you can make more of them just like this. You can play around with the different masks and do other things like that. But the best part is it's on Davinci Resolve, and the free version can do this. All right, thank you very much. Okay, if you like what you saw, make sure that you click the subscribe button up top. And share this with people. You know, this is only my first try at this. If I can do it, being 64 years old, you can do it. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.